Welcome, everybody. Let everybody kind of get into the room here, and we'll do some quick introductions. And we're going to jump in and talk about brands and brand building on Amazon, the importance of brands, strategies that brands are using to launch new products, to maintain their sales, to deal with IPI score, all these other things that are really affecting and impacting brands today on the platform. And, you know, as I'm waiting for people to come on, what I'll say is that in 2016, I had the pleasure of going to China to hear Amazon speak at a conference in China. And it was really like the impetus for me of where I saw the movement of brands going on the Amazon platform. Amazon was starting to launch a program called Dragon Boat. Amazon was starting to directly interact with manufacturers and brands in China and try to get them onto the Amazon marketplace. And I'd say it was like the wake up inside Amazon sellers to say, hey, being a reseller, being a private label isn't the way to go. And here we are in, you know, almost Q4 for 2021, and brands have most of the power on Amazon. It unlocks a lot of features on the Amazon marketplace. So I have two great co-presenters today. I was supposed to have three, but Carlos is stuck in an airplane because his flight was delayed. So I would like to introduce Maurice. And Maurice, if you could introduce yourself and a little bit about your company, which was recently ranked by Inc. As one of the fastest growing companies, private companies in the US, and talk a little bit about your company and your brand.
Great. Maurice Contreras. Volcanica Coffee is the brand. We've been in business for 17 years. And as Jeff just mentioned, we hit number 514 of the Inc. 5000 list. So we're really proud and, you know, ecstatic actually here, the whole team here. We have a team of about 20 people. We're based right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and our focus is on specialty coffee. We carry over 150 coffees from around the world. Primarily we're direct to consumer. You know, it's been a crazy ride over the last few years. We're growing super fast, and you know, it's been a fun ride, especially here on Amazon.
Yeah, and I encourage everyone to go onto his website and read a little bit about his brand story, because that's going to kind of help you connect what Maurice is talking about and kind of how he envisions a brand, because they actually tell the story of like where your beans are coming from and how they're directly connected to where the coffee is from. So it's more than just buying a random bag of coffee, right? Like it's a connection.
Right.
And then if you're not familiar with Brandon Young, Brandon, why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experience in brand building on Amazon?
Yeah, so my wife and I started selling on Amazon just with like wholesale arbitrage a little over 6 years ago. And then 5 years ago, we decided to get into private label. And for the first couple of years, we just did the Me Too white label, you know, products. We have, you know, at one point we had 8 different brands, because we would look at the data, and if a product looked like it was a good opportunity, the current sellers selling it weren't doing a good job meeting the demand based on the data, then we would just do the product. And we weren't very niche specific or agnostic. So we were very agnostic to which brand we did. And so we would just start a new brand. And, you know, more over the last 2 years, we've really niched down and focused more in toys, and we've created a fairly large toy brand that'll do over $10 million this year by itself. And then we've got a couple of our other brands that we're winding down or selling off so that we can start to become a lot more laser focused on brand building, the actual art of brand building.
Just how many products did you launch last year?
Last year, we launched about 70 products.
And what are you planning to launch this year?
We'll end up launching about double that, about 150.
Okay. And Maurice, just out of curiosity, how many products did you guys launch last year, and kind of what's your goal for product count this year?
Last year, we probably launched around 15 products. For the rest of this year, we're probably going to bring in another 5 to 8 more products. And the way we look at it, it's just some new coffee varieties. Um, there's a trend in the specialty coffee industry moving towards natural coffees, which are basically it's a more flavorful coffee because the fruit dries on the husk. So a lot of different regions are starting to offer that. So we're bringing that into our product line.
Awesome. And to me, that's really critical because I think one thing that a lot of Amazon sellers kind of miss in this, how do you grow your business, is the need to innovate and the need to bring new products to market. So I appreciate you talking a little bit about why you're bringing those to market. And Brandon, when you're looking at bringing new products to market, what's kind of the model you're using to not just evaluate the product, but improve the product and bring it?
So once you scale to a certain point, you find products that do well, that you launched well, that you were able to get a good market share. For us, everything is data driven. So we're looking at keyword research and the competitor analysis. We're understanding what our competitors are doing a good job at and what they're not. And then that gives us our opportunity score and our risk score for doing a product. So we're basing a lot of it, a new product, we're basing it on new niches we'd like to enter that we feel have a lot of different ways people are searching for them on Amazon. And the current sellers aren't doing a good job of ranking well for all of those different ways for at least a certain percentage of them. And then for existing products, we're trying to expand and get more of a market share. So we might find a product that we did a great job developing, launching, designing, and we feel like we can launch 3, 4, or 5 more of those as well. But our goal, we understand it's a numbers game on Amazon. So even our success rate might be 80% for profitability, and we might end up only keeping about half of the products we launch. So we tend to accelerate our product development process just to get more done, so that because we know we're not going to keep as many.
So you're almost anticipating failure.
Yeah, you have to, right? Like you can't go in and one of the things that I see with as you know, I mean, I have thousands of students, and so I'll notice that people fall in love with an idea or a niche, or they want to design something and they really, really love their own design. They don't go through the trouble of really looking at the data to validate it or get some feedback from different potential customers. And so then they launch it and it doesn't do as well as they wanted because frankly, like it just doesn't convert as well. And the ranking algorithm is all about conversion and click-through rate and actually how it performs the offer. And so we'll find that a lot of people will spin their wheels, throw a lot of good money after a bad product that just maybe wasn't the right product, the right design, the right niche, the right, wasn't launched properly. You need to relaunch things sometimes. And they would have been better off if they had just tried 3 or 4 or 5 designs with a little bit softer launch and then gone after the one that did well or tested it previously. So we're more of a numbers game and trying multiple different bundles, designs, things like that.
Yeah, I like to boil that down to fall in love with the profit. Don't fall in love with the idea, right? Too many people try to will an idea to success, and it just doesn't work that way. Maurice, all business owners are always bragging about their success, right? You'd said Inc. 5000, you were in the 500s. Tell me about a failure and that failure that's helped you succeed to where you are today.
Sure. A big failure that we had was we, as we were watching the coffee market evolve over the last few years, several years ago, it was probably about almost maybe 9 or 10 years ago, when Death Wish Coffee came onto the scene, and their shtick was basically, high energy, extra caffeine, knock your brain out with caffeine. And we thought, hey, let's try it out. So we created a similar brand, and we thought, that we, that it was a growing market and that it would work for us. had new packaging designed, a new blend made. We thought we did a good launch and fell flat. And it's, I'm not sure what the reasoning was, other than it became a very crowded market. Death Wish Market, or Death Wish Coffee, owned the market. They had a Super Bowl commercial, and it was just difficult to carve your way into that. And so we retreated, we canceled the product and focused on what we were good at.
So is the lesson there to not go into a niche that isn't yours, or is the lesson there to test the niche, but if you realize it's not the right niche, be metric based and back out?
Exactly. It's the second one. And I've heard you say this before, ABT, always be testing, and that was a test. It was, hey, let's try it. We invested a little bit of money into it. It was mostly on packaging and design and stuff like that. But, we gave it a shot. We let it run for about 1.5 years. And then we just realized it just wasn't worth having.
Yeah. And as good friends of, as myself being a good friend of the Death Wish leadership team, I've known them since, 2015, 2016, their growth didn't come from their product, or not just their product. Their growth came from their community, right? Their community falling in love with their product and falling in love with their brand. And so the thing that they owned, or this thing that they still own today, is 500,000 followers on Instagram, 300,000 plus followers on Facebook. And when they want to launch something new, if they do the right testing for it, they have the community that will just pour in behind it. And if you try to step into their community, they've got the support to protect themselves. And so I think one thing that is maybe a miscalculation of people when they're going is how strong the brand is they're going up against. And so sometimes when you're looking on Amazon and you're trying to do your product research, it might not be a brand that you're aware of, but if you don't go deep enough into understanding that brand, you may be surprised at how strong the brand traffic is versus the category traffic. And I think that it's something to be critical and aware of. Brandon, how about for you? How about a failure that you want to share?
We have a few, but I guess the good thing is that, you learn from them, right? So when we were probably only a year and a half into selling, we decided to tackle, we had started in electronics and we had done pretty well, but we didn't understand all the black hat methodologies that we were being hit with. But one of the things that we decided to do was develop a really nice pair of headphones. We were one of the first on Amazon to be selling active noise canceling headphones. Now, the issue is with those is that our landed cost was almost $40. And so we had to sell them at, $70, $80, $90 to really compete. And for us to understand keywords, we thought I could just rank it for headphones. And the reality is that if you can't rank a $90 product very easily, at least, on a keyword that's saturated by a bunch of $10, $15 headphones that are selling thousands of units a month. And so at that time, we started to understand, well, what goes into ranking? And it's not as simple, as, getting it ranked well, because we knew some of the tricks to get it to the top, but it would never stay there. And so we started to understand, well, once you rank it well, what are the different levers that the Amazon algorithm are looking at in order to keep something ranked well? So click-through rate, conversion rate, revenue, relevancy, all of those things. And so we started to figure out what that formula was. And so even though that product failed, and I still have some of those headphones sitting in my warehouse, and they're very expensive and it was an expensive loss, that one lesson has made me millions of dollars because I learned what products to develop, what proper expectations to set, how to keep something ranked once I rank it.
When somebody says real brand versus Chinese seller, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Because I think there's some misnomers in the space, because there are real brands that are Chinese sellers.
Yeah.
And I think that the market has evolved quite a lot in the last few years. But what does that mean to you? Like, the specific question was, do you have specific data that suggests consumers are buying more from a real brand versus a Chinese seller? Do you think that consumers even know the difference of where a seller is from?
No. So most of the Amazon shoppers are brand agnostic also, right? Like they don't care what they're shopping for, or what the brand is for the most part. Now, here's the reason though, is that most big brands are not good at ranking, finding all the keywords that drive sales for a product and then ranking for them. So there might be hundreds of keywords with at least 500 search volume a month, and a major brand might be on 20% of them, and the first page of 20% of them. And it's realistically that low most of the time for the major brands. They just don't know what they're doing with running their own Amazon business or Amazon SEO. And so what ends up happening is most of these keywords are saturated by private label brands and white label brands. And whether it's a Chinese owner or an American owner, an Australian owner, Middle Eastern owner, like it doesn't matter most of the time, as long as the content is good, the offer looks good, the reviews are good, right? Like all the other things that will ignite traffic, clicks, and conversion. And so I think that for the most part, people think, when I hear someone criticizing like Chinese brands or white label brands, it's people that overvalue the some of the brand building they do. I think some of that stuff is great to move towards as you grow, like what we're doing, building offline audiences, going direct to consumer, going to D2B and opening up wholesale channels and real brand building stuff. But some people think that I invested a lot of money in my logo and my packaging, and I put out a custom mold, or I customized the product slightly. So therefore, anyone that just did something that the factory designed themselves instead of they designing it, they took a shortcut. They're not as good as me. Like, most people don't give a shit about that, honestly.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with you. I think the real question, if I was to redo this person's question, and I don't think, Maurice, you might see this as much in the coffee arena, but please share if you do. How much do you need to worry about black hat tactics, right? And so there's a almost, we make some quick judgments in the Amazon space that the bad actors are from a certain place, or bad brands are from a certain place. And I don't think that's necessarily true, because I think that the bad actors can be coming from anywhere. And like Brandon, like you said, if you have a good, I mean, heck, one of the largest brands on Amazon is a Chinese brand called Anchor, right? So you can't say that consumers would or would not buy from a particular brand or not a particular brand. I do agree that there are brands that are ripe for stealing market or taking market share from, because they're not doing things right on Amazon. Like you said, they're not ensuring that their listings are created correctly. They're not using the right photography. But how much do you worry about black hat tactics, and how much do black hat tactics impact your business?
So I'll go first. I don't pay attention to what other people are doing on black hat tactics, and the main reason is because I can't control it. That's not something that we're going to employ, because we're very much a white hat organization. And the other thing on the black hat, sometimes it's just a matter of time before they get flagged or they get called out, where customers start realizing that it's a sham and the product really isn't that good. So, it really comes back to we can't control it. All we can do is focus on how good and how much better we can get. And I think that's the long road.
Brandon?
Yeah, we pay attention mostly to understand what our competition is doing and then how to counter it. So it's more of like, I'm the professor against the dark arts for the most part. Like I have to keep tabs on what's happening. Now, a lot of the Chinese sellers just got dinged for review manipulation, things like that. And the estimate is that over 50,000 accounts were shut down over the last 6 months.
Wow.
So yeah, it's definitely become more difficult for these Chinese sellers or foreign sellers to open up accounts, because they used to use burner accounts to attack you. So then Amazon made it a lot more difficult to open accounts. They used to use vendor accounts to attack you. They made it much more difficult for vendor accounts to have higher priority than brand registry. So that helped. So Amazon slowly makes changes to protect you. But when we first started 5 years ago, it was no holds barred, and people could do many different things. Like they would one of the most typical things that they would do that Amazon is finally cracking down on, which is why 50,000 Chinese accounts are dead, and businesses are going bankrupt over there, is that they would create the listing with one account, their main account, and then they would have multiple seller accounts that would cheat, get tons of reviews for the listing, and they didn't care if those got suspended because the main listing would remain up with all of those reviews. And then the main selling account would then just start selling on their own listing. And so they would just be like, we can't control what wholesalers do. And so that it was like they were kind of passing the buck while they were cheating. So it's yeah, we have to pay attention to what Black Hat is happening. Whether they're attacking you by changing your content on the back end of your listing in another marketplace, which is very common, which you have to be at a counter by contributing to your own listing in the right ways. It's yeah, and I know certain categories are just much more rampant with attacks and with Black Hat, and coffee is very, very competitive and very, very much Black Hat in a lot of ways too. So I know that, I'm sure you get attacked on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I think I just posted the article. I think, Brandon, you were one of the ones that kind of broke the story back in like April, May, when the original when Amazon took down, 3 very large sellers, and helped kind of uncover the overall process that these sellers were doing to manipulate the system. And again, Amazon figures it out, and then they can start rolling through to kind of look for that same pattern. And so they identified the pattern, and then they went back and got the other 50,000 that they followed the same pattern. And it really is a game of whack-a-mole. And I do truly believe in my heart of hearts that Amazon has the best intention of stopping these people when they can. It's just that sometimes they're smarter, and Amazon's a big operation. And sometimes it's a matter of somebody making the information available for them to know where to look.
Yeah, I think you're giving Amazon way too much credit there. I know for sure 100% that they get together in a boardroom and they know exactly what everyone's doing at all times because they have all data sets at all times. And then they ask, well, what is the ROI of stopping that? Okay, stopping them from doing it. And if the ROI is negative to Amazon to stop cheaters, then they won't stop the cheaters. And so what ended up happening was it was actual pressure from the government through the FTC to stop the Chinese sellers from cheating, because it was leaked that there was a database with 200,000 known cheaters that Amazon has. Amazon has a database with called cheaters, basically, and there's 200,000 accounts in it. And then the government's like, you should probably start doing something about that. Now, whether it's geopolitical, specifically targeted at China because of the backdoor China fighting with America and all the other political stuff that's going on, or whether it's because the FTC wants to stop, to clean up the marketplace a little bit, I don't know. And a lot of people speculate that it's more that the government is targeting China through this back door, which is stopping their commerce. Because something this drastic, this is far more serious for China's economy than most people realize. 50,000 accounts going down. You're talking about hundreds of major businesses that were doing 9 figures or more on Amazon, hundreds of millions of dollars each. Dozens of them were either public or about to go public. Now you're talking about tens of thousands of employees that have been laid off in one of the biggest technological cities in the world, Shenzhen. you're talking about like if 20,000 people lost their job tomorrow, their high-paying job tomorrow in San Francisco, what kind of ripple effect would that have in America when all of a sudden a bunch of people couldn't afford to pay their rent in San Francisco, and you had a bunch of major tech companies going bankrupt? So I mean, these are manufacturers. These are people that support a large percentage of the economy in one of the biggest cities in China. And so I think that, yeah, I don't give Amazon as much credit as you as saying like, oh, they'll always try to do the right thing. The right thing to them is what makes them the most profit.
Well, I don't want to. I'm gonna redirect us back into our general conversation and not go down this path. I think you and I could probably fire up a podcast and debate that for an hour or two. But let's go back into brand building, which is why we're here to talk about today. And to wrap this I guess part of the conversation up, what I want to just kind of ask is, in general, how much do you worry about your own direction versus your competitors, right? So I think if you look in Jeff Bezos, he basically says, I want my company looking forward, but I want to keep an eye on what my competitors are doing. I don't get hyper focused on my competitors. I'm just curious, like, are competitors somebody you get hyper focused on, or is it kind of I want to know what's happening in the industry, but I'm really focused on myself, my brand, and my business plan?
Yeah, I'll go. So it's really important to watch competitors, just because I've learned things, different ways on how to approach the listing and how to describe products, how to create variations. I think it's really important. But to your point, what you said about what Bezos said is absolutely, that is not primary. The primary is just driving our brand and driving our quality, and just staying focused on making customers really happy, but also keeping an eye on your competitors. I think it's really important.
So I want to go into this question that was asked. There was a really interesting question that was asked, and I actually see that Chris is on this line, so I'm going to ask him if he wants to actually debate this with us. But the question that was asked was, how do you exactly build branding on Amazon? What are the keystone or foundational parts? Goes on to say, I'm not talking about cool logos, right? So like, what's the beyond the, like, I mean, maybe we could spend a minute and talk about this is the you have to do. Then what's the next step? Is it Amazon Live? Is it post? Is it external traffic? Like, what is it about building branding? And he's specifically said building branding on Amazon, but I want to just broaden that a bit and just say building branding around your business.
Yeah, I think so. There's a major push right now for Amazon to start featuring storefronts and brands, right? So if you're not with a nice storefront, now this is tough to do with 1 or 2 SKUs, right? But once you get to 4, 5, 10 SKUs, it becomes a lot easier. But I think that Amazon's going to move in a direction where they are pushing traffic to storefronts and to brands. And we know this to be true because it was the same trend in China's e-commerce. If you look at Taobao and Tmall, you shop by brand. And that helps you retain, like, for the same reason that if you have more than 5 variations on a listing, your overall conversion rate goes up. It's because when people click onto your listing, they choose between those options. They don't need to hit the back button to see more options.
Right.
And the same is true if you drive them to your storefront. So I think great A+ content is mandatory. A great storefront that's designed well, that features your products and your offers. A great brand story in your A+ content is necessary. A great insert card with your product. All of those things add to your story that you're telling the customer and to your branding. Now, off of Amazon, you're talking about a website that people can find you, potentially purchase your products, a Shopify site. You're talking about audience building with a good CRM system, like Convomat, for example, or a tool like Seller Labs, like, using some of the software stacks that you have where you can drive traffic, build an audience, contact them on a regular basis through not just through Messenger, but through SMS and through email, so that you can re-engage with them and bring them back for new product launches and promotions. And it's funny, you brought up Anchor earlier as a Chinese brand. They were the best at brand building on Amazon 10 years ago or 8 years ago, right? Like, I remember them being the first to have a Twitter account that was active, and and having the ability to bring customers back into their funnels. Yeah, there's questions about whether their insert cards are TOS compliant now because the rules have gotten more strict. But back when Amazon didn't care about your insert cards as much, they would offer discounts. They would incentivize you to join their list and talk about giveaways. They would talk about
they had an early adopter program where you could get access to new tech. The thing that people don't get about Anchor is Anchor was started by two former Google, I think, programmers, right? Like the people that understood search and Google, and they basically reverse engineered the Amazon algorithm and started launching products.
It's funny how people who are good with data tend to do better at this business, right? Like it's just the reality of it. If you understand that Amazon is not a marketplace, it's a search engine. And so you can get real data and do really well with it. But the extra part that tilts that conversion rate, that gives you the lifelong value of a customer, that gives you the incremental advantages, is that brand building piece.
Yeah, I think I was talking with Casey Goss from Thrasio, and Casey said to me, we were talking about how Thrasio is successful with all the brands that they have. And what he said was, it's not about trying to figure out which lever to pull. It's about pulling every lever, right? Because Amazon's got so many of them that if you're not doing bundling and you're not doing A+, and so do you do social posts?
So we just started experimenting social posts.
Yeah. Because Amazon announced yesterday or the day before that they're going to now put social posts on your product detail page.
Yeah,
so for the last 9 months, nobody really knew what social posts were. You could see them in mobile. You didn't really know why you were building an audience, but everyone kind of knew, maybe I should be doing this. And now all of a sudden, the people that have been spending the last 9 months building that audience are going to get to start taking advantage of it faster than everybody else.
So I think something needs to be addressed here, though, right? Like, I think that the average person watching this may have not started on Amazon, doesn't have a product launch, or maybe has one product, and they're wondering, like, it's overwhelming. Like, what do I focus on first? How do I prioritize my resources and time? Because everyone's got limited time and limited capital. They have a large team like Thrasio with multiple divisions of SEO and Google and rank and brand building and audience and all of the different divisions that they have and that we're building, right? Like, as an 8-figure seller, you start to build a real business rather than a team. And when you're first starting, it's a solopreneur. So what do you focus on? Like, how do you do these things one at a time? And the fundamentals are on Amazon are, okay, do good research, launch products that have the best chance of success to start driving profitability, so you can build up a foundation of profitability and cash flow, and then build from there. And then, so what's next though? Is it social posts? Is it A+? Is it storefront? Is it off Amazon marketing? Like, that priority is important to line up too, because no one can just say, okay, do it all, pull all the levers, right?
Right. Mauricio, you want to jump in there? Brandon will talk all day if we don't cut him off. Me too, to be honest. So
yeah, so Brandon made a lot of interesting points, important points, I should say. SEO is really important. SEO on Amazon is really important, and you have to learn. You have to spend a lot of time learning that. Seller Labs has really helped us out a lot, and especially in the early days of using Ignite and doing advertising. So really important to have that. I think brands are alive, but Amazon is kind of changing it a little bit. But you'd be surprised on how many customers go to Amazon, especially on something that's a more important product, especially a premium price product. We have several coffees that are $100. So somebody can go on Amazon, look at our listing. Oh yeah, they got a five-star review, but is this are they ready to commit? They will go to your website. They will check out your brand. They will check out your reviews. We are not Folgers Coffee. We're not Maxwell House. We don't aspire to be, but you have to have all of the tools in place to be able to succeed.
Yeah. And I think Brandon brought up a really good point, and Mauricio, I think you did too, which is it's a building process, right? And so at the beginning, you can't be great at everything that you do. So I actually have a poll question I'm going to throw up while I'm asking this, but Maurice, what parts of your business do you outsource? What parts of your business do you say somebody else should be doing and not me? And then, or, maybe Brandon, if you've built a large team of VAs, if you're doing all these things in-house, what parts of your business did you outsource until you got to that scale?
Yeah. Really important is for us, several different things. One was the reviews, and then using, Feedback Genius. That was not something that we could do. We used to do our Amazon ads ourselves. In fact, I was the guy. I used to do all the bids and manage them, and it was very time consuming, and Amazon became very complicated over the years, just like Google Ads. So that's something that I had to outsource, so I have Seller Labs. You guys are helping us manage our ads, which is doing a great job. I'll say, give you a plug there. And then on Google side, I used to do Google Ads. I stopped. I ran away because the bids just became unprofitable. And then after several years, I thought, hey, let me hire a pro. I ended up hiring an ad agency that specializes in Google AdWords, and they made it profitable. They know what they're doing. So certain things where it's too complicated for you to manage, or maybe it was not complicated at one point, and the business has evolved. It's time to outsource those things.
Brandon?
So yeah, for the most part, so we've got 28 full-time employees in China. We've got a full content team, our product development, sourcing, logistics, things like that. We're hiring here in the States now with launches, help with launches and SEO and, further content writing and stuff like that. I think for the most part, the order that people should, first of all, I think everyone should get very, very good at every part of the business before they outsource it, right? I think people do a disservice to themselves in almost every business, but especially this one, where the first thing they start to think about is, how do I not learn and do X? Well, you should always learn it, and then you should outsource it so that you know what kind of job they're doing. And I find that most of the service providers don't look at all of the data that they should be looking at. For example, like on the PPC side, so many factors influence the performance of the PPC. Like, do your competitors have a new sale going on? Have new competitors enter the market? How are the reviews on the first page of your listing? Like, did you recently get a negative review? You have to have the full picture to run PPC properly. And I think that the people that, sometimes they don't do it right. But you need to know the difference. There are people that do a great job with it, and that you need to be able to get those guys versus the ones that just want to run it for X amount of dollars a month or whatever, right? So I'll
even say as a service provider, right, of advertising services, our customers who know it are better customers.
Yeah.
Right. So our customers who don't know it, it's not like they just say, take it over. They say, well, also tell me what you're doing and why are you doing it? So from a customer perspective, a customer that knows what they're doing, who can understand the data when you share it with them, can understand how to make the investment when you recommend the investment, is a better customer for us. So I do agree. Like, you need to have some base level of knowledge. Personally, I got rid of bookkeeping, right? First thing I did, because I hate bookkeeping. And I paid for it way before you ever should have, because I just didn't want to deal with it. From from the poll that we did, warehousing, photography, and advertising are the three highest.
Well, warehousing makes the most sense too, because it's the biggest upfront expense. Like it's a huge, capital sink. And a lot of people don't have that capital to spend, right? It doesn't make sense unless you have economies of scale to buy a big warehouse also.
Right.
So I think it's one of the first to outsource. Customer service is great. PPC people hate. Like if you're not a digits guy or numbers guy, like yes, Contact Seller Labs, they're one of the few that are very good at what they do with it. And you might find someone in another country that's willing to do it for less, but trust me, you need a good company but learn it also, right? Like understand how PPC works and why it works certain ways. And so you can have realistic expectations too.
So somebody asked earlier, explain social post on the product detail page. So Amazon has for brand registered clients, they have a thing within the advertising council where you can do social posts. They're pretty limited right now. They're basically just images with a little bit of text you can add. They were only showing up on the mobile pages, but Amazon sent out a release maybe a day or two ago saying that they were going to start testing those posts on product detail pages. And you can, they have their own version of follows, and you can have people follow you and things like that. So that was the social post. I just wanted to kind of cover that since somebody asked. I wanted to ask this question, and the guy who asked it was on, but had to leave, but I can share some of his notes. His basic question was, brands are dead. Change my mind. Maurice, how would you kind of answer that? Brands are dead. Change my mind.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot more competition with non-brands or new brands. And that was the commentary that I made earlier about, people are checking you out on your website, just because, you're on Amazon, they're going to see who is this brand? What is the personality of this product that I'm going to buy? Let me check it out. And some people are skeptical on Amazon too. Just about, the number of, fake reviews and things like that. And also unscrupulous brands that are out there, so they will check you out. So I don't believe that that's, the brands are dead. It's just changed. There's a lot more competition, and and if you want to survive, you need to be a strong brand, and the strong brands, and some of it goes back to traditional brand, marketing of,
IPs,
investing in advertising, all of that stuff.
Well, his argument is specifically on Amazon. If brands were important, private label like Amazon Basics and the rest wouldn't be so strong. He goes through the agnostic idea that Amazon is a search tool for products where price and conversion tip the scale, not the brand. And social proof of reviews will actually help your product, even if your brand doesn't have strong brand recognition. So what's your thoughts, Brandon? Are brands dead?
No, I think that I think that you can win with a couple SKUs and start being profitable in a lot of niches. Like most people selling on Amazon are still just really bad at it, right? Like they're not ranked for the majority of keywords. We talked about it earlier. Like, you can find a ton of products where the third best seller selling 20 units a day is only on 60% of the potential keywords that drive sales for a product. And it's mind boggling. But so, yeah, you can win without a brand against that guy. But what ends up happening is we see incremental improvements the more branding effort we put in, right? Like, so we're good at ranking. And then the next step is, how do we get even better at Amazon? And the thing that makes us slightly better is, and it's about getting that 1% edge every single time we improve. And it's like, okay, well, we know that our conversion rate goes up when we add videos. We know our conversion rate goes up when we add certain types of advertising that's only available to brands. We know that our A+ content moves the needle. We know that driving outside traffic to our own website or to our own landing page creates a halo effect with additional branded searches on Amazon, which give us more revenue, which helps us rank better, right? So, yeah, branding is by no means dead. It's not 100% necessary. And if you're if you think that your efforts are going wasted, it might be that you can focus more on getting better at Amazon SEO, then focus on branding, and just prioritize a little bit differently. Because once you maximize what you can do on Amazon, it's the off Amazon and the branding that starts to move the needle further.
Now, I'm a marketing guy, right? I've been a marketing guy my whole life. So the first thing that I answer the question, is brands dead, is absolutely, they are not dead. A brand is an emotional appeal. There is something you think about when you say the word Chick-fil-A. Now, that might be good. It might be bad. It might be the sauce. It might be the sandwich. It might be that they're closed on Sundays, but you have an emotional appeal to a brand in some way, shape, or form. And I could keep going on and naming additional brands. I believe Chris's argument is more about brands on Amazon. And I think that it's a short-term mentality to say brands are dead. I don't need to spend the time and investment for that. Because if I look at Maurice, I look at Death Wish Coffee, they've built brands not around the products they sell, but the community that they serve, right? So Maurice, your brand is not a particular type of coffee. It's that if you want unique coffee flavors or natural coffee flavors or the specific quality of the coffee, I can come to you and find. And we also worked with a company called Tea Forte. They were selling the exact same tea bag that everybody else was, but they had a little bit nicer packaging. They had a little bit nicer, tea leaf that they had inside, which gave a better aroma. Well, they're national now, right? And started off as a small little brand. And so if your goal is to build to that type of level, your brand is that emotional appeal. It's that unique selling proposition. And it's not just the buyers that you represent, but the community that your product represents. And that's when you start to expand yourself beyond. Because if I start buying Brandon's toys and I like them, I'm going to buy more and I'm going to tell my friends and they're going to go and start looking. And so people always say to me, like, people always ask, what does famous on Amazon mean? Like, what does it mean? And I always say it's like a state of mind. But in the reality, it's when people go to Amazon to look for your product, you're famous on Amazon, right? It was actually a playoff of the movie Big Trouble Little China when he said, "I'm big in Japan." I think he answers at some point as a question, but that's what famous on Amazon is. Famous on Amazon is when somebody goes and looks for your product. They don't go to look for the category. They don't go and look for the generic. They go and look for your brand and your product. And when you start to get those searches, guess what? You win. You win on every one of those conversions because it's very rare that somebody's searching for your brand and will buy something else. I want to wrap up here with one last question. The ultimate question that always gets asked in these types of webinars. Let's talk about predictions. So we'll start, Brandon, with you. Q4 predictions, like what are you anticipating? What are you seeing as problems and challenges? And then we'll roll back around after both of these and talk about 2022 and what we see coming down the pipeline. So Brandon, predictions for Q4.
Yeah, I think Q4 is going to be a little bit slower than maybe last year, right? I think that overall e-commerce is growing. I think stores are opening back up, and I think that pricing is, Americans are very price sensitive, and I think that pricing is going to have to go up. Logistics costs are significantly higher. There should be shortages of certain toys and giftable products, and there's going to be stockouts for competition. Pricing is going to go up. So I think that Americans have a budget to spend on the holidays, and that budget's going to go shorter this year. They're going to buy less products. Just inflation, additional costs with are going to go up for products, and so I'm expecting to sell maybe less units than I did last year, but it's still going to be a good holiday season, and I still think profitability is going to be there. But less units per product than I did last year. I'll sell more than I did last year because I'm still growing. But from a per product standpoint, I think that the multiple is going to be less.
Maurice?
Yeah, I believe that we're still on a fast clip over last year. We're doing numbers right now that are surprising us. I think and part of it could be COVID related, but at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of people returning back to work. So at least for our product category, it's still continuing to grow, and we're positioning for ourselves to have another gangbuster year. I think there's a lot of pent up demand regarding all other products. There's been shortages in supplies, and I think that stress or that pressure is still there, and it's still going to continue. I don't see that letting up. Probably not until early next year.
Let's talk 2022, right? The big crystal ball. Where do you see things going? Are you starting to plan your own brand for 2022? You know, how do you look at future planning? Maurice, you want to start?
Yeah. So 2022, I think COVID has changed just society and how we purchase and how we shop and what things that were not normal a couple of years ago. Now it's just routine, and it's specifically about online shopping, and that you know, I think people will continue to not want to go into retail stores. I mean, that trend was already there before COVID, but I think that's going to continue. And for us, what we're doing is we're just positioning just to, you know, make sure that we have good supplies and that, you know, that we're going to continue on with the momentum.
Brandon?
Sorry. Yeah, I think that e-commerce is going to continue to accelerate and grow. I don't think that we're going to go backwards as far as overall demand or anything like that. I wanted to clarify that. So, holidays, the opportunity's never been better to sell on Amazon. It's just going to keep getting better. Demand is absolutely bonkers and was just accelerated, right? I think consumables, people getting conditioned to getting their coffee delivered, like Maurice's business, is fantastic. I think that people aren't going to go back to having to go to the store to pick up their coffee off the shelf, and it's phenomenal. And I think that as people get more comfortable with shopping in other categories, it's just going to continue to be the same thing. So, yeah, if you know, I'm all in on Amazon, as you know, and you know, I think it's only going to continue to get better. We are looking at other marketplaces, expansion, diversification, e-commerce, things like that, other e-commerce platforms. But brand building, this whole thing was about brand building, and that's you have an opportunity. There was just a brand that sold last week for $600 million that started on Amazon. $600 million, you know, sale from a pet's Amazon brand. So yeah, there's all the opportunity in the world if you want to seize it.
Do you think I got a couple minutes left and you opened the door? So do you think the aggregator market and all of the money that's coming into the aggregator market is impacting the way people are looking and thinking about their business? And I'll caveat this by saying, like, Seller Labs from the very beginning has always tried to build our business to be a successful business, not to build our business to sell. But at trade shows recently and talking to Amazon sellers, it seems like Amazon sellers are now trying to design businesses to grow for a certain point, get to a certain size, and then exit, and then rinse and repeat that process. Do you think that the aggregators in the space are going to either make it harder for people to compete in the space, or that sellers are going to start doing things maybe with the wrong intention, or maybe the wrong outcome but the right intention?
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I think the aggregators, I think most of them are going to fail. I think a lot of them are run very poorly and don't understand Amazon. They're coming in from a PE and banking and investment background. I think that people even raising money for aggregators that have a little bit of success or knowledge previously on Amazon, that sort of prove the concept, I think a lot of them aren't even good at Amazon. And they don't know how to scale, right? There's a difference between you running a business that does $6 million on Amazon. That's just you and a couple team members, and then building a real business like Thrasio has done, right? Like that's the conveyor belt and raising $1 billion and having success with hundreds of brands is far, far different than from a business management perspective and from a efficiencies perspective and from understanding how to do it right. There are very few companies that will be as successful as Thrasio or some of the others. And I think that those brands will be bought. Some of them will fail, and it just continues to be a cycle because every product has a life cycle anyway. And there are still tons. And even though there's been $3 billion brought into the market, that still represents a very small percentage.
Maurice, is it something you think about?
No, not really. You know, I know the aggregators out there. I get a postcard at least a couple a week now, and emails. You know, people that are looking, you know, that are aggregators looking to acquire. I think that there are a lot of sellers. In fact, I have a nephew who's looking to basically pump up his company and sell it to an aggregator at some point. You know, but I think, you know, an aggregator essentially is going to look at the nuts and bolts, and the financial model is of, you know, what's the profitability, what's the prospect, and then also what's the brand, you know, because an aggregator isn't going to look to rebrand your product. They want to just basically attach themselves to you and just, you know, just take ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you guys for both being on here. I also want to thank an old friend, Todd, who's been conversing with us in chat. I haven't talked to you in a really long time, and we should reach out and catch up. So thanks for being on the webinar today and providing some entertainment through the chat conversation. I want to thank everybody for being online and joining us. Great conversation. We got into a lot of great things about brands and brand building and the state of brands on Amazon today. And I think what's really important is that you're constantly looking to up your business game. It doesn't mean that if you're not a brand, you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean that if you are a brand that you need to double down. But if we really break down what we talked about today, make data-driven decisions, right? Make customer-focused decisions and make sound business decisions. And I think those three things are collectively amongst the three of us, things that have made all of us successful in our businesses today and things that you can be applying into your business immediately. If you want to reach myself or any of the people on here, please reach out to us. All of us are on LinkedIn. All of us are on, can be found via our websites. And we'd love to reach out and chat with you and answer any questions directly. I send a lot of people to Brandon if they need special training on Amazon. He's got a whole course that walks you through how to do a lot of the things that we talked about. So please reach out to him if you have any of those struggles. In fact, he teaches a lot of the people in the space how to do what we've talked about. He's put thousands of people through his course and his mastermind. So I know they're not here to pitch themselves and their services, but I believe in them and I believe in what they do. And if it's something that you would need help with, please reach out to them. And again, if there's anything we can do at Stellar Labs, please feel free to reach out to us, whether it's advertising management service, channel management service, or getting more reviews or managing your ads with our tools. So please let us know. Everybody have a great day. And thank you guys for joining me.
Great to see you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.